the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing. This is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report, where we count down the top 10 things of the week that made us go wow. I'm Fenton Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, joined by our Chief Creative Officer, Tom Campbell, and editor of the Wow Report, James St. James.
That's me.
Yes, James, how are you this week?
I'm delightful, thank you.
All right, let's get into the countdown. Number 10, Tom.
Number 10.
I apologize for the sound. It was the international edition of the Wow Report because Fenton and I are in the UK. James claims to be at home in Los Angeles, but you never know.
It's all green screen, baby. All green screen.
My number 10 is in praise of the movie Dear Evan Hansen.
What?
I was lucky enough to see it in a preview screening at the DGA with my friend Russell. And he asked me, this is my first theater experience since COVID. I wore a mask. He asked me at 6:20 and the screening started at 7. I just said yes. I, like many of you, had heard very mixed things. And the one thing that the internet, which is a monster of itself, the internet is ripping apart poor, what's his name? Forgive me.
Ben Platt.
Yes, Ben Platt, for being way too old to play Dear Evan Hansen.
The Rizzo syndrome.
He's 27. Exactly. I'll get to the Rizzo syndrome in a moment. Now, here's my first thought. Well, let me just say, I saw it. It was delightful. I was moved by his voice, by his performance. There is a tiny bit of, what do they call it when you have to, just suspension of
CGI.
Suspension of disbelief, where you're going to have to just sort of believe that everybody is
a couple of times. But as I said to some beautiful HBO Max executives who are taking this anti-Ben thing, I'm like, I will refuse to let people erase Stockard Channing's Rizzo in Grease. That's right. Stockard Channing was 33, and sometimes you have to be 33 to know what it feels like to be an 18-year-old high school slut. Am I right, James St. James?
I'm with you on that. I'm totally with you. Although, to be fair, I think a lot of the criticism of the movie seems to be that it doesn't transfer as well from the stage to the screen as something as like Grease did.
I will go out on a limb and say that I think the movie is more nuanced and more involving than the play was. And I saw the play. Here's the big headline. Ben Platt's performance as Evan Hansen in Dear Evan Hansen is a one-of-a-kind performance on Broadway. It is akin, I would imagine, because I'm not that old, James, to Barbra Streisand in Funny Girl. Like, here's
Laurette Taylor in The Glass Menagerie in 1930s.
Yes. It's going. Dear Evan Hansen will live on beyond Platt. Other people have played it and will continue to, but no one embodied the part and invented the part like Ben Platt. And just the very fact that somebody had the money and the wherewithal to get that performance on film is a blessing to mankind for years to come.
It's like Sarah Bernhardt playing Lady Ophelia.
Well, I was thinking of Ali Nazimova playing Salome. She was 45, and she was playing a teenage ingenue in the Dance of the Seven Veils, right?
Well, there have been people playing, 13-year-old Juliet well into their 50s and 60s. So it's something that has happened throughout history.
But I was sitting there with my friend Russell, and I'll let you see it for yourself. And there are times when his voice and his singing, his performance was hard to put into words, but we were moving in unison. It was like there was a strong wind or force of nature going through this theater, through the screen, that just moved me so deeply. So don't listen to the haters. If you can get to the theater, go to a theater. If you can stream it. It eventually comes out, stream it. But Dear Evan Hansen is a beautiful, and it's just about loneliness and about people wanting to be heard and loved and understood.
No, it's the Tom Campbell story.
See, I'm that awful person who didn't like it when I saw the play. And so when everybody piled onto the movie, I was like, at last, people sort of see my point of view.
Well, I will see it, and I'm going to see it just because of the one song. How does the one song, the big song that everybody sobs and cries and he spits all over the audience, how does that go?
It goes amazingly. They've kind of used this out in the play. Now, Amy Adams plays the mother. Plays one of the mothers. I'm not gonna give any plot points. And Juliana Moore plays dear Evan Hansen's mother. And in the play, the emotional highlight to me was the mother song, the dear Evan Hansen mother song, Big and Small. Oh my God, did I cry? In this movie, I think they have brought out the drama so much more elegantly that it's not the emotional peak that Ben Platt gives us the emotional peak. And the play, I'll just say about the musical, Fenton, which I've seen twice, but I thought, they made it he's a very unlikable, he does some very unlikable things that make you not like and make it very uncomfortable to watch him. But it's sort of in the movie, maybe I'm just getting more whatever, but it's like we all do horrible things for good reasons. Not because we're monsters, but because we're trying to navigate this world. And
is there something you want to tell us, Tom? Are you trying to confess to something here?
James, it's really just between you and myself. So we'll talk about it offline after the broadcast.
All right, well, let's move on. Dear Evan Hansen is in theaters now. I'm very excited about this next number, James. Number 9.
Number 9.
I want to revisit Sunset Boulevard. Is this okay?
The movie, the original movie? Oh my God!
Yes. It was on TCM recently, Turner Classic Movies, and it's one of those movies that I've seen hundreds of times, literally in my life. It was one of those movies that was pivotal in my teen years. It like really meant something to me, but I don't think I've seen it in about 10 years, maybe 10 or 15 years. I haven't really sat down and watched it. And I sat down and watched it. First of all, it's the story of Gloria Swanson plays over the hill, forgotten silent film star Norma Desmond. And she takes in a screenwriter, William Holden, and sort of turns him into her gigolo as she's plotting her Hollywood comeback with Cecil B. DeMille. And it's, we know the movie. We've seen it a million times, and even if you've never seen it, the quotes. It is big.
I still am big. It's the pictures that got small.
It's the pictures that got small, and I'm ready for my close up, Mr. DeMille, and all of that. Well, interestingly, she wasn't the first choice to play Norma Desmond. William Wilder, the director, wanted Mae West, and when he couldn't get Mae West, he went to what's her name? Mary Pickford, and Mary Pickford said no, and then he went to Paula Negri, and she said no. So she was like 4th or 5th down the line, but nobody else in the world could play Norma Desmond like her. And then let me see. And she was only 50 years old when she played. When she was like 49 when she started, 50. So that's like that whole other weird thing, like that you could talk about for hours and hours now, about like this woman who was playing this like vestige from an old, another age, and she was like really in the prime of her life, and she was so beautiful. She really was very beautiful and very glamorous. Anyway, so for all these years, for the last 70 years, we've had drag queens doing Norma Desmond. We've had cartoons doing Norma Desmond. We've had Lucy doing Norma Desmond. We've had, just people doing like parodies of Saturday Night Live. You see, Carol Burnett, all these things that we've seen. But when you actually watch it, it's not as camp and over the top as you've been led to believe. Her performance is really nuanced, and it's really like, she's actually a person, and you actually feel for this person, and she does such a beautiful job, and she really deserved that Oscar that she didn't get. And it's just funny to me to watch it, to see, you expect, all the mannerisms are there, and the rolling eyes, and the big, and the voice like this, and the cigarette fun, yes, that she's smoking from her pinky, and she talks like this, everything. But she really did. It's not the cartoon performance that you think it is. It's really interesting to go back and watch it again. Has either of you watched it? Yes, Tom.
I watched it probably the same time you did on Turner Classic Movies, and I was blown away. Everything you're saying is absolutely correct.
Yeah, yeah, and William Holden, who was not considered to be much of an actor, so handsome, so good in the role, and he falls into being the gigolo. So it's like to the manor born. He just loves it. Yes, Fenton?
Oh, yes, I've been dying to speak. I like it. It's the movie that just shaped my life, perhaps more than any other movie, and in fact, inspired me so much that when I was 12, I borrowed my dad's Super 8 camera, and with my best friend, we reenacted Sunset Boulevard, and I was Norma Desmond, and I came through our living room curtains, and I was ready for my close up, and I saw it again recently, and I just thought the way it begins with that funeral for a monkey, that was like so dark and grotesque and just sort of just fantastic. And of course, Gloria Swanson was in some ways playing herself. She did actually have a leopard skin lined Rolls Royce, right?
Yeah.
And who plays the butler?
Von Sternberg. Von Stroheim. Von Stroheim.
So von Stroheim playing the butler had been a director too.
Yeah.
So it was very close to real life. It was
the waxworks of Buster Keaton and Anna Nielsen and all the old silent stars coming to play poker with her or whatever.
I have never seen, and I've always wanted to see, the opening of the film that was cut off where it's in a morgue and the dead bodies are talking. His William Holden, the original film originally began with his body in a morgue starting to tell you the story.
Well, no, he's in the pool. He's lying face down in the pool.
Right, but there was another beginning, and it began with a talking corpse in the morgue, which would have been maybe just too much. I don't know, but oh my God, what an amazing
One last note, because I Googled about this too, not knowing you were talking about James, but the way they got that shot of him from the bottom of the pool looking up at his dead face was they did it a million ways and it didn't work. And they finally put a mirror at the bottom of the pool and shot down through the mirror.
Oh, I'll be dang. That's really fantastic. Yeah. And, that shot right there you see it in a million, cartoons, and that has been riffed on endlessly. There's so much about it that you think but then you go back and you watch it and you just say, that's really spectacular. It really is. It's a classic for a reason.
Sunset Boulevard is streaming on Amazon Prime Video, Hoopla, Criterion Channel, Paramount Plus, and Amazon Channel. So it's like
if you've never watched it, please do yourself a favor.
Number 8. Drag Race Italia. I was a few days ago in Rome on the set for Drag Race Italia. And of course, I can't really reveal very much, but it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. Now, Drag Race Italia will be coming out later this year, and it's going to be in Italy on Discovery Plus, but everywhere else on Wow Presents Plus. And they have built a fantastic workroom, and that sort of Italian sense of design is just, they've taken it and just whooshed. And similarly, the queens, my gosh, they sort of come pre-built for drama. It's just, there's lots of sort of shouting and yelling and storming out.
They're all Maria Callas and they're Anna Mignani. They're all
yes. And Priscilla is the resident drag queen. She is actually a resident drag queen at Jackie O's in Mykonos, and she has come back from Mykonos. She's Italian and come back from Mykonos to do it. Tommaso Ziri is the most famous LGBT influencer in Italy, and Chiara Francini, fabulous, beautiful actress who kind of looks a little bit like Liza Minnelli. And she's also a TV presenter and a writer. She's like sort of just multi-hyphenate. And it's just fantastic. And I was very lucky to be there for one of the episodes where they were doing the Untucked. And it was just all kicking off. And just very excited about it, really.
Now, what I hear about the Italians is that they have no sense of PC decorum like we have in America, and that they go off in ways that will be shocking to international viewers, that they are just unhinged and unplugged and just spark plugs.
Well, my Italian is, I don't speak a single word of Italian. I was just impressed by the delivery and the flow and the passion. No idea what they were saying. But
Well,
I guess
what I've heard is that if you thought the Australians were crazy, that you are going to be, your hair is going to be blown off by the Italians.
that's very funny.
Well,
All right, let's
watch and learn. We can watch and learn as we go along.
Yes.
Exactly. Let's take a quick break. I've just got to tell you that RuPaul's Drag Race UK premiered yesterday, and you can catch up on Wow Presents Plus here in the US and BBC Three in the UK. And Blake, do you have a question for us?
I do. It's a birthday question. So
Are you thinking that it's your birthday coming up?
It is Monday.
Happy birthday.
I'll attach my Amazon wish list. This guy, he's been known to judge people, and at one time, he may have been the world's most famous intern. And today is his birthday. Who is he?
Oh.
All right, we'll have the answer for you right after the break. You're listening to the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
And welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James St. James and Tom Campbell and Blake. Blake, you had a question for us.
I did. It's a birthday question. Today's his birthday. He's been known to judge people, and he at one time may have been the world's most famous intern. Who is he?
Do we all say it together? 1, 2, 3. Ross Matthews.
That's right. Happy birthday, Ross Matthews.
Yay!
Judge of RuPaul's Drag Race and broke onto the scene, I think, at the age of 19 as Jay Leno's intern on The Tonight Show. Isn't that amazing?
And has never looked better. He looks fantastic, and he's so happy with his fiance. It just seems like everything's coming up Ross right now. I'm very happy for him.
Ross.
Yes.
All right, let's carry on with our countdown. We've reached number 7.
Number 7.
Even though last week you had the whole Tammy Faye, the Eyes of Tammy Faye, special on the Wow Report with movie stars and Randy Fenton, well deserved.
Blah, blah, blah.
I think the world has been waiting for my review. That's how big my ego is. James, have you had a chance to see the movie yet?
I have not. I'm excited to hear your review.
Then you get to do it next week. Now, Fenton, I love you, and I really enjoy working for you and getting a paycheck from you. But I loved the movie. I was fortunate enough to go to a screening in LA that had just wonderful accumulation of people and queer people. The House of Avalon was there. The House of Avalon are the creative people behind Simone, and Gigi Good's part of it. It's Marco Monroe. It is Hunter.
They're all from Arkansas. They've moved to Los Angeles, and they have taken over the scene with their just stunning style.
They're young and beautiful, and on the design for Lizzo and everybody out there. They are Eyes of Tammy Faye documentary junkies. I've been to their home, and it's like covered in paraphernalia, and they're from Arkansas, so they're from that part of the country, and they loved it. Fenton, who is the name of the man who had AIDS that Tammy Faye talked to?
Steve Peters.
Steve Pierce, the Reverend who Tammy Faye, the real Tammy Faye, had on the show in the 80s discussing tolerance around HIV people, which just makes you cry thinking about, which is part of the documentary that Randy and Fenton made. That scene is included with an actor and with Jessica Chastain in the movie, and it's so moving. Well, Steve was there the night of the screening, as well as I know he was in New York as well, but just having him there, that because he survived AIDS and that he was actually there and blessed by Tammy Faye and vice versa, it makes it for an amazing thing. I didn't know what to think. I was worried what to think. This movie is based very, very closely in a good way on the documentary that Randy and Fenton did, their executive producers. A friend of mine, coincidentally, because the world works weird ways, Abe Sylvia, was just a dear friend of mine from 15 years ago when we used to all get together for a group that watched Project Runway together through all the things. He's now a writer and a director. He wrote the script, The Eyes of Tammy Faye. And so there's just all these people I had to make up lies to if I didn't like it. But thankfully, I loved it. And you will hear Jessica Chastain's performance, which does feel Oscar winning. Hates to jinx it, but
good. Yes.
She does a brilliant job. It is so outside of who you think she is. the whole movie, including her performance, could be a caricature. You know, when you're dealing with a character as big and as broad and as crazy and as kind of parodied as Tammy Faye, you could, outside the documentary, which showed her what she really is, you could see it going far. And I think this movie walks the line brilliantly, presenting the outrageousness and yet the heart and soul of them. And I also have to say, who played Jim Baker, who is the wonderful actor Andrew Garfield, is remarkable. He's not going to get the same remarks that it's not as shiny as a part, but he grounds this movie, and he grounds her performance, and he grounds the relationship in one of the most unlikable characters that a movie could have. You know, Jim Baker doesn't have a lot of redeeming qualities, but he makes him so human. And you're reminded how Jim Baker was always crying on the show when he got arrested, and the way he can play him and play his narcissism, but also his hurt. Anyway, I won't go on to say, I just think it was so good. I was riveted every moment. My comparison for the people who don't even know the story, and you should see the documentary, which is on Wow Presents Plus, is it reminds me of the movie Judy, which was so central around Renee Zellweger's performance, and it was a slice of the life. But I was riveted to both of them. I just remember being breathlessly engaged in the film from the moment it started to the moment it ended. And I didn't even, cynical me about, movie structure and this and that and tropes. I didn't feel any of that. I was really in it and felt every minute of it. So, and Randy and Fenton, congratulations to you for keeping, it's Tammy Faye's story, it's her spirit that I think lasted all these years, but you were there at a pivotal time to help reframe her history and to make this moment happen. And everywhere I go in LA, there's an Eyes of Tammy Faye poster. It's like we're being blessed by Tammy Faye wherever we go. Anyway.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Fox Searchlight are really getting behind the movie, and there are posters everywhere. And that is such an exciting thing to see. And no, I got to tell you, James, I'm going to do number 6.
Number 6.
Tom, thank you so much. I was lucky enough to go to the New York premiere and then a London screening last night, as a matter of fact, here in London. And Jessica was at both of them, and she spoke so eloquently. It was like, really, having watched the movie, just to hear her take on the whole part and how she did it, and her approach to the character was just so moving. The host who was doing the Q&A last night in London, he said, "I forgot you were in the movie." Because she's so good at playing this part. You never for once think you're watching an actress playing a part. And you're right. Andrew Garfield does have the less shiny part, but this relationship between them is so layered and complex. And I feel that, in the story of Jim and Tammy, I think that ultimately Jim has gotten the less empathetic hearing. But I do think that Andrew presents the human side of him, and that there really is a human side to him. You're right, it's less sparkly than Tammy. But Jessica also talked about, and this really got me, Jessica was talking about the New York premiere and saying what a sort of amazing outpouring of love it was, and there were drag queens there, and it was a pink carpet and what have you. And Michael Muster was there, of course, and saying that the thing about Tammy's makeup, that it was a mask, yes, but not a mask of disguise. It was really about revealing who she was. And that made me think of what Ru has said about drag, that it's not about hiding yourself, it's about revealing yourself. And that Tammy was someone who wore her heart on the outside, and that ultimately, and this was really interesting, she said that, the very first scene of the film is the scene from the documentary where Tammy is about to get her photograph taken, and the makeup artist is saying, "Can we just take off these lips, and we'll take off this, and then we'll start again." And the reason I think they started the movie with that scene is that it was so emblematic of how everyone was always convinced that there was another person behind the makeup, that the makeup was a disguise and that was somehow artificial. And that the reason Tammy, this really gets goosebumpy for me, the reason Tammy Faye tattooed it on was that so no one could force her, or no one could take that away from her. And I just thought that was so insightful and so beautiful. Sorry, Tom, you were about to ask something.
No, just there's a quote that I attribute to Ru. I think is his originally. He may be repeating it, but he says the most powerful thing you can do is to become the image of your own imagination, which I think is a really loaded sentence.
Exactly. And then an audience member asked her, Jessica, what she thought the legacy of Tammy Faye was, which I thought was a really interesting question, because we all know that televangelism is a very fraught subject. It's one that evokes a lot of emotions in people, and not a lot of sympathetic ones. She said, I think the legacy of Tammy is her children. And she talked about Jay Baker, who's a minister, and does same-sex marriages and is a lovely, lovely guy. And also talked about Tammy Sue, her daughter, who is a singer and sings the song, one of my favorite Tammy Faye songs, Don't Give Up on the Brink of a Miracle, at the end of the film. And I just thought that was such a beautiful thing to say, and such a true thing to say. And, there you go.
No, it's the message of we're all sinners, we're all messed up, we're all making wrong choices for our whole lives. But love, as corny as this is, but love conquers all. That love makes things better. That there's redemption and hope in love. They would say Jesus Christ, which is really powerful to a lot of people. But just that idea of love and redemption and forgiveness and renewal is so important for all of us.
My favorite Tammy Faye saying, I think, of all of them is, we're all just people made out of the same dirt, and God doesn't make any junk. I mean, what can you do better than that?
Amen.
So that's The Eyes of Tammy Faye. It's in theaters now, so do, if you can, go see it. And it's great to see it with an audience, actually. And Jessica was very eloquent about how a group of people who have nothing in common, who don't even necessarily believe, you don't need to believe in Jesus or God or what have you, but can sense this sort of, can feel this love and this sense of togetherness, I think, from watching the film, which was what she was trying to do through her televangelism and through her broadcasting. She saw the camera as a way to connect with people. Anyway, so that's The Eyes of Tammy Faye. James, number 5.
Number 5.
I want to talk about Days of Our Lives, which has gone off the rails. It's bananas. Days of Our Lives is revisiting the Marlena Possessed by the Devil story from 25 years ago, which was a pivotal moment in soap opera history. What?
It was the only time I ever really watched soap operas, was the one summer when she was possessed and Eileen Davidson played the twins, Kristen and Susan.
Well, Eileen Davidson ended up playing Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Eileen Davidson ended up playing 15 different parts on the show. She had 15 different roles that year. But that was 25 years ago. That was in the 90s. And that was Dr. Marlena Evans. And Satan possessed her. And she had glowing yellow eyes. And she would levitate off the bed. And she spoke in a voice like this. And she killed the local priest and set the church on fire. And it was just bananas. It was crazy. And it lost millions of viewers at the time because people said it was just outrageous, but then it gained millions more. So it's always been this sort of like, people love it or hate it, whatever. So now 25 years later, we have Doug, who is played by Bill Hayes, who has been on the show since the 1960s. He's 96 years old, and he is still on the show, and he still gets plot lines, and he still has storylines, and he still has, usually at that age, they wheel you out for birthdays and funerals and whatever, but he is on the show all the time. God bless him. Well, all of a sudden, one day, he locks his wife, Julie, in the meat freezer at work. He owns a restaurant, and he locks her in, and he walks away, and everyone's like, what's going on? And then he starts forgetting names, and we think it's an Alzheimer's story, and we think that's where he's going. Well, he goes to see Marlena. Well, first of all, he's standing at the elevator, and Jackie Harry is on the show now. Jackie Harry is absolutely fantastic, and he's talking to her, and all of a sudden, he grabs her ass. This 96-year-old man, and Jackie turns around and slaps him and says, Doug, did you just grab my fanny? And it's this whole big, and he sort of stands there smiling. And so he goes to see Marlena, who is the psychiatrist. And Marlena says, Doug, why did you lock your wife in the freezer? And all of a sudden he starts talking like this. And he says, the bitch had it coming. And he said, it was the most fun I've had all week. And she's like, what? And then all of a sudden his eyes start glowing yellow. And he says, Marlena, it's been 25 years. If you think I didn't come back for you, you are wrong. And all of a sudden he falls to the floor and he starts flopping around, this 96-year-old man. And he's flopping around and he says, I have to, I've taken over Doug. And if you want me to get out of Doug's body, I go into you. So now all of a sudden Marlena her eyes turn yellow, and everywhere all around all the other characters are like, did you just feel a chill? and it looks like a storm is coming, says everybody. So that's how they have kicked off their October storyline, and everybody seems to be involved, and it's just absolutely magnificent, and I'm having so much fun with it. I think if you've never watched a soap opera before, now is the time to join Days of Our Lives.
Well, I really hope they get the devil out of her by Christmas.
Well, they say it's a 6-month storyline. It's going to go on for 6 months. But I think it's, God bless Doug, Bill Hayes, the actor who plays Doug, who's 96 years old. I want him to get a daytime Emmy for it, because when else is he ever going to have a chance to get in? Yeah.
Does the actress who plays Doug's wife, is that the same actress?
Susan Seaforth Hayes. And in real life, they are married. They got married in the 70s, and they've been married for 50 years. And they have been on the show together for 50 years as husband and wife.
Two things I have to say quickly, I'm sorry, is that they were on the cover of Time magazine about soap operas in the 70s, which I knew about it. And I remember my mother didn't watch many soap operas, but sometimes when she ironed, she did. And I used to be under her ironing board. This is before I was in kindergarten. And she watched Days of Her Lives. And I think Susan Seaforth was married to somebody else, that character. And she had Doug come over in the middle of the afternoon. She put on a record and they made love. And I was hot and bothered. It's like a 4-year-old.
Well, he was very handsome. And she has been on the show since the first episode. So
amazing.
James, do you watch it every day at a certain time? Are you?
Well, I DVR it. I DVR that, and I DVR General Hospital, and I do them every single day. Since 1975, I think, is when I started.
Wow, I have never watched Days of Our Lives. I'm gonna start.
Now's the time. Now's the time to rejoin.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Well, like I said, Decade Harry is on it now, and Marla Gibbs plays her mother. So it's like 22. What is it? What was
227?
227. So it's a revisitation of 227, and they are hysterical. And there's hot guys and.
And Living Color once did a parody of 227 called Tutu Ethnic, but that was their joke.
Do you think Passions came out like right after that? The other stuff.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that was kind of like not a spinoff, but like because of the Supernatural fans? Like,
and they did have many Supernatural. They had Hecuba, they had Tabitha and Dora on that show.
And the orangutan.
Timmy, and the orangutan nurse, yes. A nurse, or an orangutan dressed in a nurse's outfit, who was an actual nurse on the show.
Take that,
an actual orangutan was a nurse?
Yes, and they really didn't even address it. It was just they would come in, the orangutan would come in and give someone a thermometer and take their temperature and then walk off the set.
Watch Days of Our Lives daily on NBC. Check your local listings, or you can stream it on Peacock. We're going to take a quick break. Just before we do, check out our brand new podcast about New York City nightlife in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. It's Night Fever, hosted by James St. James. The first 4 episodes, Diane Brill, Michael Musto, Lisa Edelstein, and Peter Gation, they're all out now wherever you podcast. And you can also watch on Wow Presents Plus. New episodes every Monday. James?
Yeah, this coming Monday, we have Ernie Glam, a club kid from way back in the day. And it's sort of a Michael Ailig-centric episode. We talk about the club kids. We've sort of gone from the 80s into the 90s is what we're doing. And it's fascinating. And it's if you don't know anything, watch it. And if you do know anything, watch it. It's fabulous.
And hopefully this will last as long as Days of Our Lives. You'll be 97.
Yeah.
The devil made me do it.
I think we might have to bring an orangutan out for my part.
I've
you
got
got
a
a question?
question. I sure do. Not one, but two iconic 90s alternative rock albums were released on this day in 1991. Can you name the two bands who released iconic albums on this day in 1991?
All right, I can take a shot. We'll give you the answer after the break. You're listening to the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hey, welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton, co-founder of World of Wonder, here with James St. James, the editor of the Wow Report, and our chief creative officer, Tom Campbell. And Blake, of course, who asked us a very intriguing birthday question.
Well, it's not a birthday. It was two albums were released on this day. Two iconic alternative 90s albums on this day in 1991. Can you name the two bands who released these albums?
Well, it's an album birthday. So I'm just trying to recover my saving face
Nice
here.
try, Fenton.
I'm going to say Nirvana and REM.
Definitely
I'm gonna say-
Nirvana, right? Has to be.
Nirvana and Pearl Jam.
It's Nirvana and Red Hot Chili Peppers. Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic.
Yes.
What was the Nirvana one?
Never
Bleed.
mind.
Oh, never mind. Oh,
The,
yeah.
the
of course.
baby. No, is that the one with the baby on the cover?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the baby that grew up and is suing.
Not their debut, but their breakthrough.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Smells like Teen Spirit.
All right, we're counting down the top 10 things this week that made us go, wow. And we've reached number 4.
Number 4.
I want to plug a little project I've been blessed to be part of. And if you watch RuPaul's Drag Race and you watch this most recent RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars, you saw that the final musical challenge had Tanya Tucker popping into the workroom and singing and doing a duet with RuPaul that the queens added their verses to. And it's called This Is Our Country. And what was released the week after Drag Race, rightly or wrongly for promotional reasons, was the actual duet between Tanya Tucker and RuPaul called This Is Our Country. It's by, Leland, Brett McLaughlin, Freddie Scott, Gabe Lopez did music on it. RuPaul helped write on it. And I got to help write some of the lyrics on the conception. And if I can tell you, and I'm a suck up, but two of my favorite artists in the world for two different total reasons are Tanya Tucker and RuPaul. And if you had told me in 1975 when I bought my first Tanya Tucker record, Lizzie and the Rain Man, that I would one day be writing a song that she would sing, helping to write that song, it would have blown me away. And if you indulge me, I want to play you just a little bit of the verse and chorus of the amazing voices, a blend of Tanya Tucker and RuPaul. Take a listen.
This is our country. When a queen is a queen, she don't need no cowboy. This is our country. Oh, honey, I can be a queen or I can be a cowboy.
They told me I was born too wild, but I was just a wide-eyed child. I guess things haven't changed that much. I can still shoot the killer, I can still land a punch.
They made my daddy wait in line. He told me, son, don't waste your time. With nothing on me but my name, I dropped down, moved down, and did it my way.
I can tell this town is big enough for the both of us.
This is our country. When a queen is a queen, she don't need no cowboy. This is our country. Oh, honey, I can be a queen or I can be a cowboy. Rodeo, ooh. Oh, this is our country. Rodeo, ooh. Oh, this is our country.
Okay, that's just a teaser, but I mean, it's such great, it obviously plays a little bit of homage to Lil Nas X and Old Country Road, but it also talks about how Tanya, who I'll say it, I believe is a Republican. She has conservative values, but she's always, like Tammy Faye, she's always been there for gay people. She's always been open and surrounded herself. And she, in country music, is a rebel. She just won her first Grammys ever 2 years ago, working with Brandi Carlile. And here's Ru, who came up by his bootstraps and has a career that nobody would have predicted or known has reached this far. And they have such a great mutual admiration for each other, and that the song came together. It's available for download, whatever, however you listen to music. But I think it's not a drag queen song. It is a great song, and it's about love and understanding. And there's a lyric we wrote, and it's so corny, but love ain't red, love ain't blue. Love fills the space between me and you. Love is the answer. Love always wins. Love has the power to be born again. And I love, once again, with that Tammy Faye-ness, taking all that Jesus, all the stuff that's been used against us as queer people, and embracing it, that we all can benefit from love and unity and forgiveness.
And love, you can strip out Jesus and you can strip out all the sort of religious trimmings, right? And just stick with the fundamental humanistic message.
Yeah. So anyway, this is Our Country by RuPaul and Tanya Tucker. Love for you to, if you want to listen to it or watch the whole lyric video on Wow Presents. For free.
All right, James, number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3, this is a big one. There's breaking news about 90s supermodel Evangelista that happened this week. The 56-year-old posted on Instagram the other day that she's been suffering in silence for the last 5 years and is finally speaking up. She writes, "If you've ever wondered why I haven't been working while my contemporaries, Naomi, Cindy, Christy, Nadja, they're all doing fantastic. Why she isn't, she says that it's because she has been brutally disfigured by something called cool sculpting procedure and can't leave the house because she's so monstrous. She says she's developed paradoxal adiposity hyperplasia, or PAH. And I'm of 3 minds about this. I'm going to say them very quickly, and you guys chime in. Number 1, I feel very bad because for somebody who has their whole life traded on their looks and been told they're beautiful and gotten their money from being beautiful, to suddenly have that taken away from them, it's got to be traumatic for her, and the trauma must be real, and I feel very badly for her. But on the other hand, yes, there are older models. There's Mae Musk, who is in her 70s, and Carmen Delorifici, who is in her 80s and still modeling. But if you're in your 50s and 60s, for God's sakes, maybe you have some other plans, and maybe you just sort of think it's nice when someone says you look pretty and want you to be on a runway or what, but you don't put your whole life, you don't put all your eggs in your modeling basket in your 50s. I mean, develop some other part of your life, go out and do something else. And it doesn't matter if you're 60 years old and you aren't as beautiful as you were when you're 22. It's like, just sort of accept that life changes and looks change and you get older and whatever, just deal with it. And I feel bad for her. But on the other hand, she doesn't look that bad. She's sort of gotten, she's a little chunkier. She doesn't have quite the same looks that she used to have. But it's no big deal. She's an icon. She's made her mark in the industry. Let it go, Linda.
What was your number 3? You said you had 3 things, but that's okay. You don't have to have 3.
Well, I think we just need to stop obsessing about beauty as a culture altogether. I just think it's silly and whatever. Fenton, what do you think? Because I know you've been thinking about this too.
I have to confess, I did cool sculpting on my tummy, and it was agony. It was so painful, and my stomach was numb for about a month. And at the end of the month, when feeling returned to my middle-aged bulge, nothing had changed. So I'm very grateful in a way, because in this very rare condition, your tummy gets bigger. The cool sculpting does the opposite of what it's supposed to do, and suddenly fat cells double in size. Well, fortunately, in my case, that didn't happen, but they certainly didn't go away. And I just feel terribly badly for her. I think it's...
But how badly can you really feel for someone who, that their biggest problem in the world is that they have a pooch? I mean, whatever. I've got a pooch. You don't see me hiding at home.
Tom Campbell.
I can only imagine what it's going to be like when I grow older and ugly and lose these youthful looks that I've held on to.
It will be much harder for you than for the rest of us, because
exactly.
It's been so
second,
beautiful.
I feel badly for her, and I hope that this revelation that she's sharing with the public maybe makes her feel more comfortable about it and less shameful, and that she can just show her face and her body, and we can celebrate her for just being
we love Linda. We love her. Like I said, she's made her mark. She doesn't need to prove anything. She doesn't need to walk runways at 56. She can rest on her laurels, and we will love her forever.
And my mom had the same thing done, and she said the exact same thing as you. Her stomach was numb for like a month, and then nothing changed.
Well, interestingly, I saw there were pictures on National Enquirer, or somebody ran pictures of Raquel Welch, and it said the first time the former sex kitten has been seen in 3 years, and time has taken its toll on this foot. Well, she's that 80-something-year-old woman.
Years old.
Yeah, God bless her. She's got a wig on and some red lipstick. She looks fabulous, but they're trying to shame her. And why do
Your
we
only power in those circumstances is to not click on those links. Do not click.
Yeah, but also, like, why do we shame somebody for growing older and losing their looks?
Because, James, we're in an age where the space-time continuum has been destroyed, and we're not supposed to age at all.
Yeah, that's true. And there are people out there like Ru and Tanya Tucker who look just as good as they did, 20 years ago.
And Madonna looks even younger than she ever did.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we can go that far.
A younger what?
We're moving on to number 2.
Number 2.
We missed so much. I know we've been talking about Tammy Faye a lot last week, and so we missed the Met Ball. We didn't really talk about that. We didn't talk about Lil Nas X at the Met Ball. We haven't talked about Lil Nas X's album. But in the course of this, I was thinking about fashion, and I stumbled across this book by Dapper Dan, Made in Harlem. It's his biography. Now, Dapper Dan grew up in poverty in Harlem, and he was a master gambler and a street hustler. But do you remember in the 80s, like Eric B. and Rakim and LL Cool J and Salt and Pepper, they wore those jackets.
Oh, yeah,
were
from the
covered in
store
Louis
up there,
Vuitton
yes.
logos and
Yes.
Gucci logos and Chanel logos, but they were obviously not by those fashion houses because they were so blingy and massive and brazen and just sort of fabulous. And I didn't realize, I only discovered that Dapper Dan was this guy up in Harlem. He didn't go to fashion school. He wasn't a trained tailor. He can't sew, but he understood, I guess, how to take those high-end fashions. He saw people with like Louis Vuitton bags and realized the excitement they caused. And the first thing he did is he went to Gucci on 57th Street and he bought garment bags that he then cut up and fashioned into. He got tailors to fashion them into these fabulous jackets. And he understood that rappers wanted the status symbol of these logos and brands, but they wanted them to look different than the sort
High fashion, yes, the runway.
Yeah. And he had a whole business. He opened a store, and it was really like urban couture. And,
I actually went up to Dapper Dan's in the 80s or late 80s, I believe, and I got a Louis Vuitton fisherman's vest that I loved more than life itself. It was so fantastic. And wherever I went, everyone went bananas for it. I remember the trips up to Dapper Dan's.
Well, he was like a prime mover in this trend for logo mania. But it's more than a trend because it started in the 80s. It's still with us. Like Balenciaga, well now, of course, Gucci and Chanel and Balenciaga, they've run with that logo idea. In fact, to such an extent that I think it was a few years ago now, 3 or 4 years ago, Alessandro Michel, the creative director of Gucci, paid an homage, uncredited initially, to Dapper Dan by doing one of his jackets in Gucci logos. And there was a huge outcry on social media that, long story short, led to a partnership with Gucci. And Gucci have opened uptown in Harlem. There's a Dapper Dan Gucci atelier up in Harlem now. Isn't that amazing? It's just an amazing story to me. And
this was a book that you read about him, or
yes,
what?
It's his own biography. It's Dapper Dan, Made in Harlem. And of course, it's being developed into a feature film.
Fabulous.
I don't know. I've just read all this stuff about. I'm just fascinated by the way that I know, James, you think fashion is over with and done with, but I just thought the Met Ball was so interesting this year because it was so diverse, and there were so many like. Whereas before street artists wouldn't have been welcome. Like now,
Now it's every
gender
damn
equality here.
TikToker and every damn social media influence. It has no prestige, no cachet. It is nothing, but like you said, street people wandering off of Fifth Avenue in whatever bubble wrap garbage bag they can fashion over as an urban.
My point is that actually fashion has been completely turned upside down and inside out. So
if that's what you like.
The design houses would trickle down. Now it's street trickling up. We have to take a break. When we come back, we'll reveal the number one thing this week that made us go, wow.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
We're back. RuPaul's DragCon, by the way, is back May 13th, 14th, 15th of 2022. Get your tickets now. DragCon, 3 full days. RuPaulsDragCon.com.
I can't wait.
Yes. Number one. What is number one this week? What made us go wow the mostest?
Number one.
A little tiny queer show called RuPaul's Drag Race that started on Logo Television with a really tiny budget that was in danger of being canceled year after year for about 8 years until it was moved to VH1 under the wise tutorship of Chris McCarthy, has now won for the 4th year in a row Best Competition Series. And our fearless leader and inspiration, RuPaul, has won a record number altogether as producer and host of RuPaul's Drag Race, a record number of 11 Emmy Awards, which we found out on Sunday night when the award was given for Best Show, which Ru got, puts him at the most honored person of color in the history of the Emmy Awards. And that's just, it's really humbling. It's really, I'm thrilled for Ru. I don't think any of us I know none of us started off doing RuPaul's Drag Race thinking about Emmy Awards or any kind of platitudes. We just wanted to continue the story of drag and the story of, you know, as sort of mentored and seen through the career of RuPaul. And it's just this momentous occasion, which maybe I made this analogy before, but I feel like we make the show because we love to make the show. We wouldn't make it if we still didn't laugh and love it and all that kind of stuff. But when you get an award like that, it feels like your mom took your favorite drawing and put it in the refrigerator. It's like you'd still be drawing, you'd still be painting, you'd still be coloring because that's what you love to do as a kid. But it's just kind of nice when mom puts a couple magnets on it and sticks it in the refrigerator. And that's why I feel like this whole Emmy adventure has been like.
Well, congratulations! It was fabulous to watch. I'm very excited, and Ru is gracious as always and inspiring as always. And everyone looked fantastic on stage. Simone and Gottmik and Michelle, just really fantastic. So it was a very exciting moment.
And Ru was really gracious and just said, you know, to all those kids out there who, you know, he didn't say it this way, but all those kids who are locked away and maybe closeted or maybe, you know, in families that don't understand that it's like your tribe is here waiting for you. And there he is with Gottmik and you know, and Simone and Michelle, and just saying we're waiting for you, you know, come to Mama Ru. And I think that is the power. You know, television is just television. It's just showbiz. It's a bunch of people with egos and want to be seen. But Drag Race is different because it lets people see that you're not alone, that there are queer people, that they thrive, that even with hardship, they survive. And then there's a place for them and there's a place to be celebrated. That's a powerful message. And again, not necessarily, and I give it up to the World of Wonder and to Rainey Fenton, who I always say, if Rainey Fenton had given you a business plan saying, this is World of Wonder, we're going to pursue these kinds of shows with these kind of people, I would have said, thank you very much. I'm going to look elsewhere. You know, it wasn't logical. It was passionate, and it was a need to tell the stories of people whose stories weren't being told, and Drag Race is one of those opportunities. And I don't mean to.
But you know, you couldn't. There could have been. There was no master plan, and there couldn't have been because it's really the talent of the queens. It really is, you know. And I'm often reminded at times like this is something that James said that I feel actually is a theme of the show this week. You know,
a little hunchback.
If you've got a hump on your back, throw a little glitter on it, honey, and go dancing. Because whatever it is you've got, amplify it, let it be your truth, whether it's Tammy Faye with the eyes or whether it's Linda Evangelista with all sorts of new limbs thanks to cool sculpting, or whether it's the unbounded
maybe Linda Evangelista needs to wear a bare midriff and throw some glitter on her stomach and go out and go belly dancing.
And I always think at times like this, James, you dressed as a slice of pizza. It's always just one of my abiding inspirations.
Well, now that's the kind of fashion I can get behind.
There you go. Dapper
right.
James, you should open a store.
It is. And Drag Race is ultimately just this platform for amazing queens who keep challenging us, changing our minds, opening our eyes to tell their stories. And it is they're the reason that Drag Race in some way will never grow old. I think they'll always.
And it is all sort of part of an ongoing expanding movement. Like, you know, we're talking about Gucci a little bit earlier, and Alessandro Michel, the creative director, he just recently announced all the clothes were no longer going to be gender defined as male or female. They were all going to be just whoever wants to wear whatever they want to wear. And I think that also is a really positive message. So it all connects, right? Yes. Thanks for tuning. Yes, Tom.
I said it all started with St. James's hump.
I don't know. I need to take credit for all that.
Just one little hump. You know, thanks for tuning into the Wow Report on Radio Andy, Sirius XM. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, James. And thank you, Blake. You can catch previous episodes on our YouTube channel, Wow Presents. And God willing, we'll see you same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go wow.
Wow.